Yo, what is going on, Cover One crew? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody is good, man. Monday Night Football is in the books. Steelers and Giants was an interesting finish, that's for sure. Got some of y'all your wins, got some of y'all your losses. We're talking week number 9, waiver wire must-add players. Some good ones, man. National Tight End Day, came off with a boom. So many of those tight ends just went off this week. Record high for National Tight End Day. It was amazing. But we did actually see some uplift from a lot of other players as well. Some more injuries did transpire. So, I mean, some of the waiver wire on certain positions has been picked clean. So we got to get the depth purposes. And especially at running back, we're going to have to, make something work. But for the bye week purposes, we got the Steelers and the 49ers on the bye week. So nothing crazy. At least good news for the 49ers. They can have a week to rest up and get healthy, man. So many of these guys are injured right now, but we're talking running backs. Jaylen Warren and Isaac Guerendo are my top 2 running backs right now, and I get it. They're both on the bye week, but at this point, we're heading into the, crunch time of the fantasy football season, and we got a hedge bet for guys that could potentially have some carries and volume moving along. Jaylen Warren, absolutely. He was dealing with that injury early on. Now they're kind of nursing him along, being that, scat back for a Najee Harris right now, and I do believe coming out of the bye, the way Russ is playing, the way this offense is moving, I think that Warren's role is absolutely going to increase. For me, 47% owned. If he's still on your waiver wire, he's an absolute must-get and put on your bench stash right now. Because, again, anything happens to Najee, Warren's going to be a massive player for us, man. Guerendo, likewise, except there is stipulation here where we're hearing rumors that CMC is likely back after the bye week. We will see, man. You don't get over like Achilles tendonitis that easily, so we will see how that does shake down. We saw Jordan Mason go down with that injury on the shoulder once again. So, I mean, lots of injuries to the running backs, and Guerendo looks good, man. Louisville product. He's got wheels for days. He just doesn't like scoring touchdowns, man. Keeps diving before the goal line, but 8.7% owned right now. Going into the bye week, you won't have to spend a whole heck of a lot of fab dollars. A lot of people will fade him on the news that CMC could come back, so if you got room on your bench, I do not hate adding a Guerendo just for safety purposes. But like I said, the remainder of these notable additions, man, it is primarily for depth and handcuff purposes only. Ray Davis, Buffalo Bills. James Cook looks like a madman running out there. You see that vision? James was always my dude coming out of Georgia. If you guys have followed me for a long time, I always wanted the Bills to draft a James Cook, but Ray Davis is legit as well. And I mean, again, anything happens to a James Cook. We've already seen a contest where James sat and Ray Davis absolutely took the lion's share of the carries and made it work. So he needs to be owned. 30% right now, almost 50 points. Ray Davis is a good one, man. Tyler Algiers get his sprinkles here and there. He is on matchup play, and if the Falcons do end up blowing out their team, he does get garbage time productivity as well. He's a decent one to have and playing on the matchup if the Falcons do get a heavy lead. Ty Chandler, simply here. He's not doing really anything fantasy-wise for us right now. He's simply here only if an Aaron Jones does get injured, and we know that this does happen in the past, so definitely he is a premier handcuff for me. Sean Tucker still is on my board. But the way this is going, without Mike Evans, without Chris Godwin, we saw how, at least they were able to move the ball, and then they kind of, fell apart at the end. But with Rashad White, with a Bucky Irving, those are your 1-2 punch right now. So unless one of those gentlemen do go down, then Sean Tucker can be installed once again. They flirted with the idea of the hot hand, but I mean, I don't know what it was. Rashad White, he didn't like the competition. He's looking like the number 1 running back in that room right now as well. But Bucky's looking amazing also. So you can fade a Tucker at this point, but he is going to be a premier handcuff if one of these guys do go down. Justice Hill, not so much for me. Like I told y'all last week, it is a scheme-dependent, game plan-specific type of running back who can get you some PPR productivity. Floor is decently safe, anywhere from 5 points. So, I mean, you could do a lot worse in really deep leagues. But outside of that, I'm keeping him on the waiver wire at this point. Just a notable watch list player for me. Braylon Allen as well. These New York Jets, man, I told y'all if they lose to these New England Patriots, it's going to be a problem. And it is a big problem. Right now, Breece Hall's not running the best. Aaron Rodgers can't find his, stud wide receivers. Found Garrett pretty well. He can't find a Devontae right now to save his life. And Breece doesn't look like the old Breece either. It's weird. Something weird. Sauce Gardner doesn't even look like himself. So there's something weird going on in New York right now. But a Braylon Allen, definitely, if something happens to Breece Hall, he is a premier 3-down back with the massive touchdown upside, no question. Blake Corum, Trey Benson, they continue to rest on the bottom of my list as these watch list players. 22% for Corum, 23% for a Benson. They are massive handcuffs, especially for a Kyron Williams. Blake Corum would take the lion's share, where if a James Conner does go down, we might see the Demercados and the Trey Benson in the backfield to, do a 50-50 split, but he is still worthy of a pickup and placement on my bench. And then Dalvin Cook, just for, S and giggles, I was going to swear there, but just for, giggles and stuff, man, he's just at the bottom. I don't fully expect much. We're hoping he's going to turn into another Kareem Hunt with the Cowboys, but the Cowboys look absolutely terrible right now as well, so he's just on the bottom as a watch list. Quarterback time. Bo Nix. Bo knows. Bo knows, man, he's doing very well. The progression is what we want to see from youthful quarterbacks, and kudos to a Sean Payton making this system very comfortable for a Bo Nix. That game, like I said, against the Carolina Panthers was an absolute perfect contest to open up the playbook for a Bo, and he was hitting the big boy throws. That pass to Troutman, 20 yards over the middle, putting it on a rope. Yes, it was a nice one-handed snag by your tight end, but Bo is starting to get a little more confident. That's what you want to see from your young quarterbacks. Gain that confidence. Hit those throws that are very tight window to gain that confidence to make them. Bo's playing very well. Got you good point productivity this past week, only 34% owned. He is a fabulous streaming quarterback at this point. If you lost somebody like a Jordan Love, feeling love for love, Bo Nix absolutely on matchup play. You can play him. Matthew Stafford is back in the business. Why, you may ask? Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, they're back, baby. And he threw, 4 tutties on Thursday Night Football? It was unbelievable what we saw. Matthew Stafford absolutely is back in a big way. The offensive line is starting to get more healthy also, so this is good news for a Matthew Stafford. He will still put up his stinkers. He is on the, elder side, of retirement. So, he's a senior citizen when it comes to NFL quarterbacks. But what I'm telling y'all, 32% owned, almost 100 points with Puka and Kupp back. He's absolutely going to sling the football, man. Jameis Winston, what I say to y'all, man, protect this man at all costs. His interviews are the best. And what did he say, man? He could play some football. Yes, he can. 33 points on the season. Had a massive game versus the Baltimore Ravens. He showcased the fact that we know Jameis's history. Let's just put it that way. We know he's going to sling the football. We know he's going to make mistakes, but he's just going to continue to sling that football. That's what's so good about Jameis when it comes to fantasy football. He's definitely one of these guys. You got to temper that too, because he will have his stinkers, and everyone's going to be like, what the hell happened to Jameis Winston? That is Jameis Winston. He's going to have his stinkers, no question. But, against the Baltimore Ravens, they just didn't know what the hell they were going to see from Jameis, and he lit them up with good point productivity, man. Trevor Lawrence, I would have had him, above a Matthew Stafford, but he lost all his weapons. Christian Kirk with the collarbone. We saw Gabe Davis go down with an injury. We saw Brian Thomas Jr. He went down with a chest contusion as well. Who knows? He's week to week at this point. Kirk is done for the year, and then we'll see what happens with Gabe. But, at this point, 129 points. Trevor Lawrence, sunshine, he's been doing very well, man. 20 points is a good play for your quarterback, especially if you're streaming. He's still on the waiver at 41%. This is crazy, y'all. Anywhere from 18 to 22 points, I will take all day long. When you see guys like C.J. Stroud getting you, 5 to 14? Trevor Lawrence is outpacing him at this point. He's a definite one. If you're struggling with quarterbacks and you want to stream week to week Trevor Lawrence, even with the injuries, still got Evan Ingram, still got Tank Bigsby, and you got to see Parker Washington still a decent player. They will play, and I think Brian Thomas Jr. will suit up next week. We'll see how he does work with that injury. Russell Wilson, he's feeling dangerous. And, he looks good, man. Yes, okay, he didn't have the, top end. He didn't even hit a boom game this week on Monday Night Football, but he still looks good moving this offense, those passes, those dimes. It's vintage Russ coming back to the fold. So once they get the bye week, a little bit more chemistry. He's feeling himself a little bit. Russ is definitely a streamer that I'm looking for. Malik Willis back on the board because Jordan Love, feeling the love for love. It just did not look good, man. The groin injury, I thought it was a knee when he went out, but apparently it's a groin. Coach LaFleur says we'll have to wait and see. MRI, I believe, is coming. Malik Willis is definitely a good fill-in. He showcased the fact that coming to LaFleur's system is really good news for him. So, you could do a lot worse than a Malik Willis. He will at least sling the football with all the weapons and plethora of talent they do have in Green Bay. Drake May went down with a concussion. Very strange as well. Barely looked like he got nicked when he went to the ground, and then he was out for the rest of the game, so he crippled us this week just due to injury. But Drake's a dog, man. I told y'all, this guy can run, he can throw, he can make some plays. Drake May is the real deal, y'all, and I'm still on board. Even though he plays for the Pats, I got to cheer for Drake because he's my dude, and he was one of my best quarterbacks coming out of this draft. No question about it. If he's healthy and he's got a good matchup this week, I do not dislike it. Joe Flacco, the Indianapolis Colts look flaccid. The weirdest thing I've ever seen. Never seen it in my time covering and watching football. A quarterback, tapping out to go to the sideline because he was tired. I've never seen that before. Not a good look, man. Now the coach is saying, okay, we're going to evaluate the quarterback position. Anthony Richardson has one of the worst quarterback completion percentages ever in the history of the NFL after I think 20 or 30 starts. It's at like 44%, y'all. It is not good. We know that he's got an arm. We know that he's raw. We know he can run. It just does not look good and promotive right now for this offense. So I would not be shocked if Joe Flacco does not get a start this week at the nod. So for 6%, we know he can at least spread it to all of his wide receivers. Everybody would get an uptick if Flacco plays. So I'm all for it. Aaron Rodgers, 50% ownership rate. I mean, again, he's hovering around the 15 to 18, 19 points for you guys. And, I mean, they got to figure something out. The Jets are absolutely completely a dump fire right now. Not looking good, not looking organized. But, I mean, at least Rodgers will get you a decent floor enough to get you covered, man. And then Derek Carr coming off the injury, not touching it this week. Got to see how he does look with the oblique. But he is on the watch list at this point. Wide receiver Cedric Tillman, he goes off, man. Former Tennessee Volunteer product. Unbelievable contest he did have. And kudos to some of y'all in the comments. You guys actually were like, can I play Tillman? He was actually on your rotation of question to say, who do I start? And Tillman was on this list. I just had to see it to believe it, man. I'm a fan of Tillman. Always have been. Loved him at Tennessee. It just, you got to see it in the offense. All of a sudden, just with Jameis Winston, and here's the key kind of, you see these guys on the, practice squad playing with the backup quarterbacks. He had instant chemistry with a Jameis Winston. You saw it on the field. This may not last, so temper the expectations, but he still is warranted of being picked up. He's tall, he's lanky, he's got speed, and he's got strength and physicality. He is a good wide receiver. Absolutely my number one priority this week on wide receivers. 21% owned. He should be there for a lot of y'all, man. Ricky Pearsall, like I said, San Fran's on the bye week. We saw Ayuk's down. Jennings is down. Jennings will likely be back, but we know with the Ayuk injury, Ricky Pearsall should have a good role, sizable role. Would he have 9, 11 points this week or something like that? So, I mean, he's a decent wide receiver that we're all looking up to. We know he's a stellar route runner. He's got good hands, and Brock Purdy should be able to force feed him on the regular. As he gets more comfortable in the system, he will be a player. There is no question. Must pick up a Ricky Pearsall, almost 40%. Josh Downs, feeling the downs for downs. We're down for downs, I should say. And okay, look, man, you cannot trust any wide receiver with an Anthony Richardson. Simple as that. I mean, Downs was running free in the open field and booked off, a 60-yard touchdown. That's where you got your point productivity from Downs this week, and that's the anomaly. It's like an Alec Pierce getting 2 deep shots for TDs from an Anthony Richardson. If Flacco does play, everybody gets a piece of this ball, and Downs is that dude. He's supremely talented, and you can see it week in, week out. Just get the ball in this man's hands, and he will make plays. 70 points on a waiver wire with 43% owned. That's simply because of the quarterback, because it's so inconsistent week in, week out. I would almost even say this week, I got Pearsall ahead of him right now, but because Pearsall's on the bye, I would not dislike getting a Downs ahead of a Ricky Pearsall either. John Mechie, Houston Texans, depending on how the word comes out, still haven't heard nothing, not a boo from these Houston Texans about a Stephon Diggs. He made a cut, no contact injury on that knee. I gotta believe, man, it's, at best it's an MCL sprain. At worst, it's an ACL. I mean, it did not look good. He did not return. He had to get trainers to help him off the field, so it was not a good situation for a Diggs. John Mechie is one of my favorites. I love this guy at Alabama, and I'm hoping that they open it up. With Nico Collins still out, you got Tank Dell, and everyone else is going to have to at least do something. Robert Woods, Bobby Trees, and then Xavier Hutchinson at the bottom of my list as well. Everybody's going to have to do something to help out a CJ Stroud, who has not played well so far this season. So, I mean, it's going to be an absolute mix and match show, but I hope they do give it to John Mechie. That's why I got him here on the board. Parker Washington, like I said, all those injuries to the Jaguars wide receivers, to a Kirk, to a Brian Thomas Jr., and to a Gabe Davis. Parker's good stuff, man. He just hasn't been given a shot. He's had some drops in the past as well. Former Penn State product. I always like a Parker Washington. He's got some abilities, and he can be utilized in that Christian Kirk role as well. As long as, Trevor Lawrence can keep slinging him the football with an Evan Ingram, we could see Parker Washington become a very steady piece in this offense without question. Rashad Bateman, when he's not letting footballs hit his helmet and go off his face mask, I mean, he's making plays. 2 points plus absolutely crippled us for who played him this week. myself included. I mean, I still won my matchup, thank goodness, but he did cripple me with the 2 points in certain leagues. Still on the bandwagon for abatement. I mean, 71 points. They're giving him at least enough targets downfield to make some plays. It's going to be more matchup scheme dependent, absolutely, moving forward. Very hard to trust week in, week out, but Bateman still gets you points on the regular. Khalif Raymond, Detroit Lions, so long as J-Mo's out. I mean, the last 3 weeks, even when J-Mo was in, Khalif has actually done very well. Almost 30 points in the last 3 weeks for this man. Had a nice kickoff return. He's got some usage in the pass game. He's kind of that, gadget type of wide receiver. Always been a fan of Raymond. He's one of those risky plays, deeper leagues. You're looking for a flex play. That's definitely where I'm going with a Khalif Raymond, so long as J-Mo is out. Pop Douglas, okay, he's determined based on the fact of a Drake May. Simple as that. As soon as Drake comes back, 48 points. Last 2 weeks, he's done nothing really special. If it's Jacoby Brissett, we can't trust the wide receivers just like we do with Anthony Richardson. Drake May comes to play. I think we can start. Hopefully, they start to figure it out with the Pop Douglas because we're all waiting patiently. I know I am. I'd still keep Pop on my bench just in case it does happen. Darius Slayton, I mean, again, here's another situation. Malik Neighbors dropping some passes. They went to Slayton's side. He's making some catches. Had a good Monday night. Now he's back on my radar, 20% ownership rate. He's a good one. Just stash him on the bench if you require. If a player goes down, I mean, if Neighbors goes down again, he's got some target share ability here, volume upside for sure. Absolutely one of these guys I'm looking towards. Jalen Coker, I told you guys this in Start Sit, man. News with the Deontay Johnson potential trade rumors that he could be traded this week as well. Coker would absolutely fly up the board. Even with Bryce Young, give Bryce Young the flowers he deserves this past week, man. Coming back off the bench, he didn't look great, but he looked better. Over 200 yards passing. I don't want to see a guy struggle that bad and not come back and, at least save some face. He looked good enough, and Coker looks really good on the field. His routes look supreme, and he's getting in that end zone. We absolutely love what's going down. Jalen Tolbert, until these Dallas Cowboys figure out their problems, 36% ownership for a Tolbert right now. I mean, it's not going to give you a great deal. It's almost like in that Bateman category, secondary wide receiver, hope for the best on matchup play. Outside of that, Tolbert is dropping down my board. And then Robinson from these LA Rams, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua come back, and Robinson scores 2 TDs. This is just how it goes in this offense because he's the forgotten man, because those two gentlemen, Nacua and Kupp, they pull so much coverage away. He's always wide open. He's one of these guys. It's going to be the high risk, high reward, potential touchdown week in, week out. So that's the only reason why you're picking him up. And like I discussed with an Xavier Hutchinson, they're going to have to do it by committee in Houston until Nico does come back, and hopefully Tank Dell can step up and play. Tight end, Zach Ertz. Like I said, National Tight End Day. Everybody got a piece of the pie, man. And I mean, some of these dudes, they got to get on your team immediately because Zach Ertz has been so good all season. Very consistent floor. And I mean, for a position that has not done well, Zach Ertz has been very consistent. Overall, 40% owned, and then almost 60 points. Right now in a Jaden Daniels offense, unbelievable Hail Mary too. Unbelievable stuff this week happened. But Zach Ertz, if you're looking for safety points, he is definitely your guy. Hunter Henry, much like any other New England Patriots, like Kayshon Boutte and company, 42% ownership. He's almost got 60 points himself. He's a good one, man. 7 points this week, 11 the week before? So you could do a lot worse than Hunter Henry, especially when Drake May's looking for him. Safety blanket appeal for rookie quarterbacks always is the key. Ty Conklin, as long as an Alan Lazard is out, he will have a role in this New York Jets offense, taking that third secondary piece role. And, I mean, he's going to do you, favors. He's not going to, light it a fire. Hopefully he scores a touchdown, but Conklin's definitely viable so long as Alan Lazard is out. Mike Gesicki, likewise with him, as long as T. Higgins is out, Mike Gesicki will have a role in this offense. If T. Higgins comes back, we can absolutely fade Mike back down to the waiver wire and not even think twice about it. Taysom Hill. These Saints are in a big world of mess, and I mean, they really need Derek Carr back. Spencer Rattler just does not look the part right now. He's still learning on the fly, but as soon as they get Derek Carr back, Taysom is back to being healthy. He will be that guy who's vulturing touchdowns and will have a decent role in this offense. Will Disley with the LA Chargers found himself some decent target share. Ladd McConkey finally goes off this past week, and Disley still getting some targets. But this offense in LA is very difficult to trust overall. They just don't throw near enough like they used to in the past. Herbert's he is a 5,000-yard passer. Is he not mistaken? Correct me if I'm mistaken, I should say, but I believe he's a 5,000-yard passer in his rookie year. You got to throw the football with this guy, but he doesn't look healthy either. So, I mean, in this Harbaugh, system, it's just it's not looking great for total offensive point productivity. Jonnu Smith, Colby Parkinson round out the rest. I mean, it's not necessarily great. Again, Tua's back, uplifts the wide receivers, downgrades a Jonnu, and like I said, Kupp and Nakua are back, so it downgrades a Parkinson big time. So unless injuries do happen, then we can actually look in that direction. So right now, watch list for those two tight ends. But there you have it. That is week number 9. Must add players. Like I said, it is getting skimpy out here. We require injuries and we require boom players on the waiver wire to get this back up. So right now this week wasn't necessarily the case, but there are some players we can absolutely stash and hope for the best. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.